Hi there, I'm Peter Millard and this is 10-Minute Workshop, where 10 minutes in the workshop is never enough. It's never 10 minutes and it's never 10 minutes wasted. In the workshop this week, I'm making a little floating shelf. That's coming up next. So yes, that was very much the plan, but as you'll see as this video progresses, that plan starts to unravel pretty badly. I'll be popping back in throughout the video occasionally just to give you a bit of background info and behind what's going on behind the scenes. But for now, let's go back to the start when I was full of hope and confidence. So yeah, a little floating shelf about 1600 long, 260 deep, is going into a corner of somebody's kitchen. We're making this out of 18mm oak veneered MDF. We're laminating this up with two sections with a 6mm spacer in between, so it brings it up to about 42mm thick. And how we build these, how I do them, is to route a groove, several grooves into the so you get a channel on the inside of the shelf, and then you fix this sort of threaded rod studding into the wall with a chemical anchor, a polyester resin fixing, and then you sort of thread the shelf onto that, bolt it on, and then put a capping piece, a thick veneer, a 2mm oak veneer, to cover all the outsides up. And obviously we start by getting the grooves routed into the oak veneer. Now it might be worth mentioning here that the only floating shelves I've done before were actually had a painted finish. That might be quite important later on. So yeah, I've got some oak veneered boards. I've had these cut to size already by my timber yard. When I first picked them up, I thought, flipping it, that's pretty funky kind of grain. And I realised that was that's the balance board. That's the proper side. So we are working on the insides. I want to put a stud in about every 400mm, whatever that is, about 16 inches. So we'll just mark these up. This end's going to go into a batten because this is going into a corner. We'll have a batten against the wall at this end. So 400 and 8 and 12, and then one slightly inboard at this end. And that should be plenty of support. And I'm going to route a, where are we, probably 10mm deep. I've got 12mm half-inch studding. So if I go 10mm on each side, that gives us a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of play, just to balance everything up, just in case things don't go in perfectly. But we'll get the router set up, and we'll just run these grooves. We'll do them together at the same time so they match up perfectly. So a bit of a cock-up. I've just discovered, always pays to check, just discovered that the 45mm by 2mm solid oak lipping that I bought is actually barely 42mm, but only just over 41. So it's not actually going to cover if I put a spacer between these as well. And in fact, of course, because it's a veneered board, it's come up closer to 39mm anyway. So it's going to be this thick. I can't make it any thicker. I'll just have to do a little bit of extra trimming. But the next thing we need to do is route a groove out of the front so that the studding and the bolts can sit in and be sort of hidden by the front capping. We'll do that on the router table. We'll bring it up to the same height as these, just take it in a little bit. Now you don't actually see this on camera, but I hadn't fully thought through the impact of the lack of a spacer between the boards that make up the shaft. Basically the studding is relatively slim, that holds the shelf to the wall, but the nut that secures it all is fairly obviously quite a bit fatter. Also it needs to turn, and you need to get something, a spanner, a socket set, whatever, on that as well. Now this means that the hole for the nut needs to be that much bigger, or the groove or whatever you're doing. Because the shelf is that little bit thinner now, if I were to route enough space for that nut to turn, it gets very close to the outside edges, the top and bottom walls of the shelf. And I was a bit concerned about getting good enough adhesion on the oak lipping, the capping piece that hides all that. Did I mention that I only ever done painted floating shelves before? Yeah, more in the next episode about how I go around resolving this. I hope to see you then.